Good evening and welcome to another round of discussion of BP Right Karo, an initiative by JB Chemicals and Pharmaceutical Limited supported by IHW Council. I am Ridhi Lakra, Assistant Editor, IHW.TV. As part of the exclusive series BP Right Karo, we aim to spread awareness about blood pressure and educate people to follow the right steps and procedures while measuring blood pressure at home. As we celebrated World Hypertension Day yesterday on the 17th of May, which focuses on creating awareness about hypertension and its symptoms and prevention, we cannot avoid the fact that hypertension is ranked one among the top three diseases amongst the other burden of diseases in the South Asian countries. Hypertension has been long recognized as one of the major risk factors for the chronic disease burden, morbidity, and mortality in India, which also attributes to 10.8% of all the deaths in the country. One in four adults has hypertension in India, and one in 10 has it under control. The concerning fact is of the thought is here that only about 42% Indians are at the risk of misdiagnosis of hypertension. There were there was a recent study which also revealed that 28 patients had white coat hypertension which were misdiagnosed, and around 18 to 20% of the patient had mask hypertension. Both these conditions in which the office BP measurement doesn't help very much as the home BP measurement does. In fact, the trends, most clinicians and the guidelines highlight the importance of home BP monitoring and how crucial it is in a hypertensive patient's journey today. To talk about this, we have Dr. Dilip Kumar. Dr. Dilip Kumar is a consultant, interventional cardiologist, and electrophysiologist. He is also the chief academic coordinator at the Medical Institute of Cardiac Sciences. Dr. Kumar specializes in interventional cardiology and cardiac devices, making him the right person to talk about blood pressure monitoring and management. We welcome you, Dr. Kumar. Before we begin, I would like my team to play the video of BP Right Karo, the right way to measure BP. Uh, there are some technical glitches. So let's start with the session, doctor. Like as we were talking about the hypertension, how like it's become a lifestyle disease, and when it comes to we talk about the various lifestyle diseases, hypertension and even diabetes is one among them. So what do you think, doctor, is the scenario in India, and do you think this trend is increasing over the years?
Yeah, so very good question to begin with. I must compliment you. You have hit the right question right in the beginning. So Indian hypertension is a little different from the world, hypertension population. So everyone knows that India is a young country, and we have around something around 70% of our population is less than 30 years, and the mean average age of Indians are 29 years only. So being 29 years, the average in world. So we have got a very large proportion of patients, hypertensive patients who are younger. As a country where hypertensive patients are generally older, we see, and also the CAD patients are also older. So we in India, we see more of young hypertensive patients, and we have got distinct cultural and geographical variation, dietary pattern variation, and in different parts of India. The North India it's different, South India it's different, Eastern India it's different, Western India has different food pattern, and salt intake and food. So these are really a scenario which is only unique to India. We have a lot of factors which are different from the outside world. So in nutshell, I will tell you the Indian hypertension scenario is not good. We, India, is home to 200 million hypertensive patients. 200 million. It's a huge number, and I already said a large number of these patients are younger patients, and the awareness and the control is really dismal. So what we see in Western countries, the control is something like half of the patients are controlled on drugs once they are detected hypertensive. In India, this ratio is only 30%. So although if we identify a patient who is young, hypertensive, the control rate is 30%. So this is the scenario of hypertension in India. So we have a long distance to travel, long way to go to have a proper hypertension detection and control.
So, doctor, when we talk about what is the major the risk factors which is actually contributing to all these lifestyle diseases and especially hypertension?
See, hypertension itself is a risk factor for coronary artery disease. Okay, so the mortality, the biggest reason of death everywhere is coronary artery disease, heart diseases, and the one of the biggest risk factor for coronary artery disease or heart disease are hypertension. So hypertension, anyone can ask, I'm having a lot of pressure, stress, is this hypertension? So this is not hypertension. Hypertension is a numerical number, is when we measure your blood pressure, then there is a upper number and lower number, what we call systolic and diastolic blood pressure. And then if this numerical value goes above 140 over 90, then we call it hypertension. So many people confuse stress, mental pressure with hypertension. So this is not correct, number one. And to say that hypertension risk factor, the commonest reason of hypertension is not the work stress, is not how you live, but is genetic. So you are meant to have hypertension. If your family members, your family parents had hypertension, you are bound to have hypertension in most probability. So first is genetic risk factor, and second is obviously lifestyle. If you are obese, you are going to have high chances of hypertension. If you are smoking, binge alcoholism, more of alcoholism. So these are risk factors for hypertension. And obviously there is a mental stress. So these factors contribute to the risk factor of hypertension. And hypertension itself is a risk factor for coronary artery disease or heart disease.
Doctor, you were talking about the younger generation. I mean, in India, there is the younger working population, and you were also mentioned earlier that the hypertension cases in the younger people are more. So, what are the reasons behind this? Like, why younger people are getting in today's day? Why are the younger people getting hypertension and blood pressure today?
So this is something to blame. Is to blame our genes. Okay, so we are genetically made like that we have hypertension in younger age group, and it's not like we are having a very bad lifestyle, or we are having a mental stress, or much obesity which is contributing to hypertension in younger age group. It is not like that. This is because of genetic reasons. We are predisposed to have hypertension in younger patients, and also we see heart diseases 1 decade earlier than what we see in Western country. So there is a common saying, in Western countries, the son brings his father for heart diseases, but in India, the father brings his son to doctor for his heart ailments, because we see younger patients, and the genes are responsible for that. We are genetically made like that.
Doctor, are there other factors especially in the younger people, apart from the genetic, that even at the work stress level, as you were talking about, they are not directly related, but are they also somewhere also related that
Yes.
people who are working very stressed out, they also have blood pressure?
So the message is not that genetic is 100% contributing. This is one of the risk factor, but additional and acquired risk factors are also important, which contributes to a very good proportion of hypertensive patients. And these are lifestyle. You see, uh, we Indians have got central obesity. We have a waist size which is more, and then belly is more, and then the upper limb and lower limb is thinner. So this is called central obesity, which is characteristic of Indian patients. And if we don't work on it, we don't work, do physical activity exercises, it goes on increasing, and we tend to have more and more obesity, and that to central obesity, which is even a bad risk factor. And on top of that, we are also seeing a rapid urbanization. So you will amazed to know that 50 years back, we had only 11 to 12% of population residing in urban areas. But nowadays it is around 33%. So 33% of one third of Indian population, they are living now in urban areas, which was only 11% 5 to 6 decades back. So this is a very rapid urbanization, which is seen only in India, not in other countries. They have got their urbanization in 1920s, 30s, in 20th century, and we are seeing in last 5 6 decade. So this is also one reason, and more urbanization, more stress, more competition, lifestyles, and then more dependence on alcohol, smoking. So these risk factors, less of exercise, junk food intake has become more and more. So all these factors contribute to hypertension, and that is why the stats very clearly show that in urban areas hypertension is more common than rural areas. So you feel that rural patients, rural people, they are relaxed, they have a free good air, less pollution, less population also, less stress, relaxed life. So they have less chance of hypertension. But in urban area, there is a high prevalence of hypertension, and this is 33% in urban area as compared to rural area, 24%. So 10% higher in urban areas. So this is how we are struggling to have a control of hypertension, because all these factors are increasing day by day.
Doctor, like according to like the National Family Health Survey data, it was revealed that the diagnosis of the control of hypertension in India is very poor, as you also mentioned this earlier, and the initial diagnosis of hypertension does not actually happen. So hence there is a time that the patient, by the time the patient is being diagnosed, he's already in the stage 2 hypertension. So, doctor, what are your comments on this? And also, is there a way that we can actually improve the diagnosis scenario in India?
So the screening is the only way forward. So we have to screen patients who feel that who feel that they are normal, to detect if there is an hypertension he's having, or dyslipidemia he's having, or he's having other risk factors of coronary artery disease. So you are very true. The National Family Health Survey, and there are other survey also, district level health survey, they all showed a very dismal kind of picture when it comes to awareness of hypertension and the detection of hypertension. Many patients, 50% of the patients were unaware that they had hypertension. So how to improve it? So there is an algorithm which is proposed by WHO and also International Society of Hypertension and CSI, also Cardiological Society of India. That is, everyone who is more than 18 years or 20 years, they should undergo a screening for their blood pressures. And suppose if the blood pressure is less than 120 by 80, less than 120 over 80, then they have to again screen after 3 to 4 years. Not before that. They can relax. If someone has a blood pressure of 120, the upper number systolic, between 120 to 140, and diastolic 80 to 90, so they are in pre-hypertension stage. They can slip to hypertensive stage any moment. So their screening should be every 6 monthly. And if someone is detected, like you do just like my hospital, other corporate hospitals, any person who is going into university at or school, university level, or any joining in any he's getting employment, so his company is asking for medical tests. So these are all screening process, and we are getting to know if someone has hypertension. So in these scenarios, if someone has a blood pressure of 140 by 90, we call them in hypertensive patients, but single reading is never sufficient enough to label anyone as a hypertension. So you have to ask all people who have 140 or 90, more than that, to come again after 2 weeks of general lifestyle changes. And still, if the blood pressure is higher, on 3 readings, we do always record 3 readings. We never do 1 reading. So if someone comes to us in office, we take first reading, then after 2 minutes, second reading, and then after 2 minutes, third reading. And first reading is always discarded, because first, once he has come to you, he will be having a lot of stress, thought process going on. So the final 2 blood pressure measurements, you take average, and this is your final BP. So at second time, after 3 to 4 weeks, he's coming again. You are taking this 3 reading, making it average. This also comes more than that, what 40 or 90. We diagnosed as hypertensive, and then we give them the treatment.
Doctor, when we talk about like the stages of hypertension, so what are the various stages of hypertension, and are there any symptoms that people can actually diagnose themselves that this is what the hypertension is, and it should be only diagnosed, as you were mentioning, like it should be only diagnosed with the periodic BP measurement?
Yeah. So when it comes to stages of hypertension, I will briefly tell you that there are a lot of different definitions. One proposed by JNC 7, then JNC 8. JNC is Joint National Congress, of US, and JNC 8, and then WHO, then ISH. So they all have different stages. Like someone say pre-hypertension, someone say high normal BP. So I will make it little easier to everyone. 140 over 90, more than that is hypertensive, stage 1. And if it goes more than 160 by 100, it becomes stage 2 hypertension. And someone has a blood pressure of more than 130 over 80 and less than 140 over 90, this is called high abnormal blood pressure or high normal blood pressure. And less than 130/80 is called normal blood pressure. So these are the stages of blood pressure when we record. And optimum, we say when blood pressure is less than 120 over 80. So these are the stages of hypertension.
Doctor, a lot of people say that my blood pressure is low, and they would say that because my blood pressure is low, I'm not feeling good. So, is there a thing that people actually can understand that they are feeling their blood pressure, and a lot of people start getting angry, and is that a part of the like a hypertension, very like aggressive hypertension?
No. So this is very good question you have asked. So many patients, they come say I have a low blood pressure. There's nothing like low blood pressure. Okay. So low blood pressure we see in terminal stages of a patient who is in ICU and who is about to be terminal patients. And sometimes there are some endocrine disease where there can be low hypertension, but never in all other conditions there is no low blood pressure. If someone has a 90, 100 blood pressure, he should be rest assured that he's going to live more than someone with BP of 140 or 90. So lesser the blood pressure, more longevity the patient is going to have. And if he's walking around, there's no problem. Just a reading of 96 by 60, it is perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. So low blood pressure continuous with symptoms of giddiness. Someone gets up and feeling giddy, and he is feeling that he will fall. So this can be low blood pressure, and then it should be evaluated for any endocrine reasons or any other reasons. Otherwise, everything is perfect. Someone is moving around, no problem. His BP is 95, 96, 100, absolutely fine.
Doctor, as you mentioned about the various measurements, so you mentioned that the normal would be like 130 by 80, and is there a difference according to the age or the gender wise, or maybe people with the comorbidities? So is there a variation in their blood pressure?
Yes. So there have been some controversy in or some contradiction or some difference in opinion when we talk about elderly patients. So someone who is more than 80 years, still we see 140 over 90 should be taken as cutoff for hypertension or not. So definitely we still consider 140 over 90 more than 80 years population, but we don't go drastically lesser in controlling their blood pressure. Someone has 150, 90 or 160, we start medicine, but we are fine enough if his blood pressure is then less than 140 over 90 in elderly patients, those who are more than 80 years. But someone who has risk factors or disease, comorbid conditions, as you rightly pointed out, like diabetes or chronic kidney disease, then again we keep the blood pressure less than 130/80, most probably, all these situations. And someone who has no risk factor, no disease, then between 130 to 140, we keep like doing lifestyle changes. We don't start medicine. So this is how we basically treat hypertension, and these are the targets.
Dr. Kumar, there's a thing that now that we have discussed the various points of the having a normal BP, what is a normal BP and what is a hypertension level. So, is there a diet or like the patient should follow, like if they are hypertensive and once they come to know that they're hypertensive?
That is very essential to know about the diets. Diet, you see, there is a dietary approach, stop hypertension, DASH diet we call. It has really showed in different studies, experiments, that they can reduce blood pressure by 8 to 10 systolic, by 4 to 6 diastolic. So they can bring down 2-digit hypertension blood pressure reduction. And these are basically take more fruits, vegetables, come down on cereals, fatty food, less of cream, junk foods. So nutshell, like I must say, diet means Mediterranean diet, and which is more of fruits, vegetables, nuts, so, and lesser of cereals, fatty, meals, and less of poultry, red meat, and obviously less in high cholesterol diet. So diet is very important. That's why you see our ancient saints used to live a lot longer, 100 years, 150 years, all because they were what we call in Hindi Shakahari and Falahari. They were thriving on fruits and vegetables and green, green vegetables, and less of cereals. And obviously there was no earlier that refined foods or something, packaged foods are there. So at this moment we have a fancy of having more of packaged ready products we take and cook very quickly and then eat. So these are very dangerous. And less sodium is very important. So I will take a while to clarify this situation, this particular point, sodium and salt intake. We always tell someone, if you have hypertension, you don't have to take any salt. So this is a common myth. You have to restrict your salt, but it should not be absolutely zero salt diet. You have to take salt, and this should be around maybe 2.5 to 3 grams per day of sodium, and common salt is up to 5 to 6 grams you can take. And you will appreciate and ask a question, why, how can we know that we are taking a 4 gram or 6 gram or 9 gram or 10 gram? How can we know? So see, very simple. You don't take junk food, less of papad and chips. So this should be less. And then you don't take extra salt when you're eating. So the salt which is used in cooking is all right. Don't take processed food, don't take junk foods, and don't add extra salt. It will roughly come around 4 to 6 grams of or 2.5 grams of sodium per day. This is how you can maintain. And we have seen patients coming with hyponatremia, low sodium in a summer season. In summer also we sweat and then we lose sodium and we are not taking sodium, and these people come. So this is my very urgent and humble request to everyone. Relax your salt restriction in summer, summer season or extreme heat. This can be sometimes very, very crucial and critical. We see patients in summer coming with hyponatremia, hypertensive patients. They take diuretic, they don't take food, more of fluid and electrolyte. They don't take sodium, and they come with these problems.
Dr. Kumar, you were mentioning about the salt. A lot of people have a question also. What kind of salt we are supposed to eat? So there's something called pink salt. There's something called Himalayan salt, rock salt. So people often mix and match things. So is it that right way, like of consuming salt?
No, there is no right way recommended. Salt is salt. Whatever, if we say take a Lona salt, it will less sodium. Then you take more and more Lona salt, and eventually will end up with more sodium. So it has to be no extra salt while eating food. While cooking, your someone has given salt for taste, it's okay, and less of junk food. This is how you can restrict your sodium intake. And one more thing, there is called salt sensitive patients. So if someone is not salt sensitive, then there is no point in having more sodium restriction in these patients, because in non-sensitive patients, even if they take sodium, blood pressure is not getting uncontrolled. So how you can ask me how to know that I am salt sensitive or not. So someone who has hypertension, he has started lifestyle changes. He has been given medicine. Now his blood pressure from 180 has come to 130/70. So there are two group of patients. We ask them to, okay, now relax their sodium intake, continuing the blood pressure treatment. Some of the patients, once they start taking salt, hypertension, blood pressure still jumps again to back to hypertensive stage, even if they were taking blood pressure medicine. So these are called salt sensitive patients. Some of the patients, nothing happens to them. Some of the patients, there is a mild increase, but it's okay. So the first category we call salt sensitive, and they should be restricting their sodium intake at all cost. Other two varieties, other two group of patients who are not salt sensitive, they can have a normal salt, and it has been proved in multiple studies by Salim Yusuf, many studies. So there is a kind of article called "Great Salt Myth in Hypertension." So someone who is not salt sensitive, he should be relaxed. He can take a tasty food with salt, no problem. But as a whole, we all in all we say to everyone that they should restrict salt in a moderate amount.
Doctor, when we talk about one of the very important thing, like who can actually find out like I have hypertension, and are there the physicians, the general physicians can find it out, maybe in the regular, as you were talking about the routine checkups, and how can we actually do an early diagnosis of hypertension?
So I told you, screening is the one way. So screening by university, the employers, the companies, the medical camps everywhere. And sometimes you had asked this question, I didn't answer, the symptoms of hypertension. So majority of the times this is a silent disease. It doesn't have any symptoms. But some lucky few have symptoms in form of headache especially in the back part of the head, occipital area, or some blurring vision, some feeling of irritation, and then they go to doctor, physician, and get checked, and we find that blood pressure is very high. So an MBBS doctor, or this is also a unique feature of India. This is not only MBBS doctor who is treating hypertension. There are homeopaths who are treating. There are Ayurveda doctors who are treating. There are RMPs also who are treating. They're not physicians, not MBBS, but they are registered medical practitioners, and they are also writing medicines and treating. So we are basically in process of making our CSI guideline on hypertension, and I happen to be the convener of National Hypertension Council. We are taking this part and we are addressing this issue. We have to lay down a guideline so that the treatment becomes more homogeneous and uniform. When if RMP is treating, you can't stop. You don't treat hypertension. You can't say like that. But there has to be uniformity. These things have to be adhered to, and some standard things to be taken care of.
Doctor, there's another thing like even the doctors, there are the guidelines which has been provided that it's important that somebody like a home blood pressure monitoring is much accurate and also consistent, like compared to the like when we visit a hospital. So, what is the importance of a home blood pressure measurement? As we were, there's a main thing about our entire session, and which all age groups should actually start doing a routine monitor of their blood pressure at home.
Yes. So we are gradually moving away from two gold standards of hypertension management. One is your mercury sphygmomanometer. We are going away from that. We are moving to digital ones, more common, and or Android. Second is we are moving away from office blood pressure measurement or clinic blood pressure measurement. because you rightly pointed out that patient can have a masked hypertension, patient can have a white coat hypertension, someone who doesn't have hypertension, he comes to you and he's really panicked and very stressed out. Oh my God, what is going to happen? And then his blood pressure is obviously it will be more. So this is called white coat hypertension. Someone see physician, his blood pressure goes high. And second is absolutely reverse. Someone has a hypertension, but once he come to physician, his blood pressure is not recorded, it's recorded normally. So this is called masked hypertension. You will ask, what is the reason of masked hypertension? How can it happen? So some patients, they're vulnerable and all reflexes which are going on. So psychosocial and the reflexes which are there, they are responsible for masked hypertension. So both these category of patients can be well diagnosed when we go for home blood pressure monitoring. So that's why home blood pressure monitoring is very, very sought after nowadays, and it's recommended. And third is, at home the patient doesn't have any stress, and we say that it is not the 2 times in a day they should go for a blood pressure measurement. One, once they get up in the morning after taking rest, they should get their blood pressure checked. And then second is, once they retire from their work, they come to home, and then they should check. And the 3 readings, average of last 2 readings, this is very important. And also it is important how to measure blood pressure. So at home, he's sitting, he's lying down, he's watching television, lying on his bed and measuring BP. So this is not correct. He has to sit with feet on the floor, and back should be rested. The arm in which his blood pressure is measuring should be rested, and the arm should be at the level of the heart, and the cuff size should be normal. And he should not have taken any meals last 30 minutes, and he has rested for 10 minutes. Then he should measure his BP. And then again, we have already discussed this home BP monitoring has given us a lot of insights and better blood pressure measurement and control.
Thank you, doctor, for that. Dr. Vinay, there's another thing like there is like smart watches have come up. Say Fitbit, digital wearables are there. They also give a BP measurement. They also give heart rates, oxygen saturation. But if you see it like according to the guidelines mentioned, they say it's not accurate and it doesn't provide the actual monitoring of your entire blood pressure. So, what are your views on that? Should people actually use such digital wearables to check their BP?
So these BP measurement by uh, watches, and there are a lot of other ways by which blood pressure can be managed and measured. But right at this moment, I should say that these are not standardized, and we can't take any therapeutic step depending on this blood pressure measurement. If someone has a BP higher, which is stored in their wristwatch or Apple Watch, or I think Apple Watch is not giving blood pressure monitoring. Some other watches which are giving watch-like devices. Even there are some contact lens blood pressure measurement. There's a company called Dozy, which makes a small detector which is there, on the bed of the patient. On the bed of the patient
Yes.
sits over the device, and it will give you blood pressure measurement. So a lot of ways blood pressure measurement is there, but they are still under experimental stage. In experimental stage means, as a doctor, we are not going to confirm them at this moment. The studies are going on. Once we feel that they are matching up with our normal gold standard home blood pressure monitoring or office BP monitoring in a correct manner, then only we can advise. But definitely they will be an additional help. Will give us good idea, but how much accurate this is, still a little more. I think we should reserve our verdict.
Doctor, there's another thing like people often is you said about measuring the blood pressure. So there is that tendency that once they come to know that they have high blood pressure, they keep checking their blood pressure again and again the entire day. Maybe I have blood pressure now. So is that also a right way? Or is there, as you said, like in the early morning, one should take the blood pressure and then again in the evening, maybe at the end of the day. So should they avoid this, or what do you suggest?
I think we have discussed many important aspects, but one important aspect which we missed out is patient compliance and a patient's behavior. So we get two kind of patients at extremes, and then the majority of patients who are moderate, we say and then do. So one class of patients, extreme patients, they come and they will come up with a chart, PP at 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11, 11:30, 12. So 24 hours, 48 times blood pressure measurement, or maybe 20 times when he was awake. Their blood pressure is not going to control because he's always obsessed, and his stress will lead to high blood pressure. So what we say daily 2 times, and with perfect way which we tell them, our coordinators tell them how to measure blood pressure, and this should be adhered to. And second extreme patients, they will come after 6 months. You have asked the patient to come after next month of starting blood pressure. They will come after 6 months with BP of 190 by 100. You ask that patient what happened. He will say, in 1 month time, my blood pressure is controlled. So I thought at 120, 80, if I take BP, it will further go down. So I stopped it. And now he is coming after 6 months. So these two extremes should be avoided. You should not be very obsessive over blood pressure measurement, and you should not be very relaxed also. You have to comply with the advices from the physicians and the treating doctor.
Doctor, like already mentioned, you have mentioned about the position and all. So if you could be like explain us like what would be the right time to, you said like early morning is one of the time that we can take, and the day and the end of the day. So and you mentioned about not to sit. If you can explain in a pointer wise like how one should get up and take a like blood pressure, that would be great.
Yeah. So this is very important. It is not like someone getting up and taking a BP. So your body system takes time. Your reticular activator system, or what we call RAS, reticular activation center and system. It takes time, at least half an hour, to get back to normal stage once you have woken up. So after half an hour of getting up, you can relax. You should not have taken tea, coffee in the morning, or anything in empty stomach. Rather, if you're comfortable, you sit there, relaxed way, and then you take your blood pressure. So this is the way one should check his blood pressure. And the similar directions are there when the patient comes from his house, work, after the day's work. He retires to the home, and then again he doesn't have to take a lot of evening snacks. Before that, he should uh, stabilize, get composed, relaxed 15-20 minutes, and then they can check the blood pressure in the same way. One or two more important points: if someone is very obese, then the cuff size should be considered to be a little larger than the normal. So 50% of the girth of your arm should be covered by the blood pressure cuff. If it is not happening, the blood pressure measurement will be inadequate. Someone who is okay is weighing around, maybe a normal adult person weighing around 50 to 100 kg, I can suppose, then a normal blood pressure cuff will be okay. Someone who is weighing more than 100 kg, he should be considering to have a larger blood pressure cuff.
Doctor, what are the things like we should not do while taking a uh, blood pressure monitoring? When we are monitoring that, what are we not supposed to do? So a lot of people talk and they say ki, like, we are measuring, they laugh. So is that a right way, or is there any specific way to do it?
No, so we don't say that you don't laugh or don't smile, but definitely don't talk, don't cry, and don't simultaneously keep on eating something. So you have to be relaxed, smile, okay, no problem, but you don't have to talk, definitely.
Doctor, to conclude the session, I would like to ask you like a message for all the people who are listening, like about hypertension, and your closing remarks on the entire session.
So my closing remarks: we have seen patients getting complicated because of compliance issues, because of awareness issues, and we really feel sorry when we see patients lining up for kidney transplants, lining up for heart failure clinics, and lining up for eye clinics for blindness. So one of the common reason behind all these problems is hypertension, which is undetected. So hypertension is a silent killer. It's very prevalent, and if someone is around 70 years, 50 to 70% chance that he will be having hypertension. So it's not something you should not feel that a stigma someone is hypertension. So it is a way of life. With hypertensive in the minority few, 35 to 40%, and if someone is non-hypertensive, it is in 50 55% people. So it's not a stigma. Hypertension can't be cured, but it can be controlled. So control your blood pressure, avoid being in the queue of kidney recipients or heart failure treatment recipients or in the blindness clinic. And screening is the crux, and self-medication we should avoid at all the cost. And you should not be very over enthusiastic about hypertension, and again at the same time you should not be very complacent also. You have to comply with the advices of physician or treating doctor, and rest is our job. You have to comply, better lifestyle, check your body weight, avoid smoking at all the cost. And one point again here, people feel that only smoking is dangerous. Taking Bimal Pal in Aichi with Charda is not dangerous. This is not correct. It should be stopped. Nicotine in any form is harmful. And stay away from nicotine, be it oral, be it chewing pan, be it smoke. And third is diet, which we have discussed, and good lifestyle. If you have a family history, you start screening earlier. So that is all I can sum up.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dilip Kumar, again for this very enlightening session. And it was an interesting session. I'm sure a lot of viewers who are listening to us have got a very relevant information, and like how to measure BP and making a right choices like for a healthy lifestyle. And more importantly, the what we have spoken about, the BP monitoring, which is like a very important concern today. And like this could actually lead to a happier, healthier, and a stress-free life for a lot of people. I thank you once again on behalf of the IHW Council. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
That's all for today. Keep watching.